My mother sold me to hunters for $40,000. Ache the road by sundown, they warned. I turned the tables and survived. The police took Mom away. My mother didn't just fail me as a parent. She turned me into a paycheck. At 12 years old, I found out she was literally selling my life for sport. Wealthy men would hand her $40,000 each for the chance to hunt me through the woods like I was some kind of animal. She called it camping. I called it trying not to die. The first time she drove me out to that ranch, I thought it was going to be a normal weekend. You know, tents, maybe roasted marshmallows, bad cell service. Instead, she made me change into ripped clothes, took away my shoes, and told me I was playing a game for money. There was a man waiting with a weapon and a smile that made my stomach twist. That day should have killed me. It didn't. And that's the only reason anyone ever found out what she was really doing. In this story, you're going to hear how a scared 12-year-old kid went from being hunted for cash to turning the entire game against the hunters, exposing every one of them and watching the police drag her own mother away in handcuffs. At first, it started as a sick game. I had no power to refuse. But as the hunts got deadlier, something in me snapped. I stopped thinking like prey and started planning like a predator. And you will not believe what happened on the 12th hunt, when my mother decided one child wasn't enough. The very first hunt is burned into my brain like a bad scar. Mom parked near this huge stretch of private land, all trees and tall grass, with a fence so high you knew it was built to keep secrets in, not people out. She popped the trunk, handed me a pair of ripped jeans and a dirty shirt, and told me to change. When I hesitated, she grabbed my arm. "Hurry up, you're wasting his time." His time. Not mine, not ours. His. She took my shoes away and tossed them back into the car. The dirt was cold under my feet, full of rocks and little sticks that already hurt to stand on. Then she pointed toward this guy leaning against a truck, holding a crossbow like it was part of his body. He waved at us, all friendly, like this was some family barbecue. "You're going to run through those trees until the nice man catches you," she said, like she was explaining a board game. "If you make it to the road before sundown, we get paid. If you don't run fast enough, we don't get paid. Understand?" I honestly thought she was joking. I laughed. I waited for her to smile. Instead, she shoved me toward the tree line so hard I almost fell. Behind me, I heard the man start counting down from 9 like it was a race. When he hit one, instinct took over. I sprinted. No plan. No idea where I was going. Just raw panic. Branches whipped my face and tore at my feet. Every step felt like I was landing on glass. I could hear his boots behind me. Then the first arrow hissed past my ear and slammed into a tree. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a game. If he caught me, I wasn't getting a timeout. I was getting a funeral. I finally spotted a hollow log just big enough for me to squeeze into. I crawled inside, curled up, and stayed there for what felt like forever, listening to him stomp around and call me Little Rabbit while he searched. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I barely breathed. When the timer finally rang in the distance, he cursed and walked away. Mom collected the money, smiled at him, then turned to me and said I did great, but needed to make it more entertaining next time. On the drive home, she stopped at McDonald's, humming along to the radio like we had just come back from soccer practice, instead of almost getting me killed. After that first hunt, it didn't stop. It became a schedule, a routine. Once a month, Mom would get a text or a call, and suddenly we had a camping trip on the calendar. Every time, it was a different man, a different weapon, a new game, but the rules were always the same. I ran, they hunted, and Mom got paid if I was still breathing at sundown. She started treating it like training, like I was her personal project. She bought books on survival and military evasive tactics, then made me study them like homework. She'd spread maps out on the kitchen table and trace routes with her finger. Zigzag here, double back there. Use mud to break your outline. Control your breathing so they can't hear you gasp. Then, just so I wouldn't get any bright ideas, she showed me exactly how trapped I really was. One night, after I tried to run away between hunts, she sat me down and pulled out photos she had secretly taken of me changing clothes. She'd cropped them so they looked indecent. "You run again," she said, "and I tell the cops you're a runaway selling yourself. Guess where you end up? Right back here." Except this time, no more hunts. Just straight to the highest bidder. I tried telling a teacher once. She shut that down before it even started. She had already told everyone I was a pathological liar with violent fantasies. She even set up therapy sessions where she coached me to talk about my stories. The therapist wrote it all down, but to them it just looked like a messed up imagination, not a confession. So no one believed me. Not because the truth wasn't horrifying enough, but because Mom had written a better fake story first. By the seventh hunt, I wasn't just surviving by luck anymore. I knew which trees were easiest to climb, where the ground was soft enough to hide footprints, and how to use creek water to mask my scent. I'd even started turning the environment against them. One man left with a fractured ankle after I led him into a half-rusted bear trap. I'd reset myself. Another shot himself in the foot, literally, after I looped him back onto his own trail. Mom loved it. She raised her prices and advertised me as experienced prey. With every new client, the danger got worse. These weren't just bored rich guys anymore. Some of them actually knew how to hunt. Hunt number 9 is the one that almost ended everything. The client was a trained military officer, quiet, focused, and completely sober. He watched me the way a wolf watches a rabbit, already planning my moves before I made them. That day, the second the horn sounded, I bolted like usual, using every trick I'd learned. Zigzags, sudden stops, doubling back. It didn't matter. He cut off my angles like he'd done it 100 times before. Within the first hour, I felt his arm clamp around my neck from behind. He didn't yell. He didn't gloat. He just squeezed. The world went dark around the edges, and my body started to give out. Somewhere in the panic, one instinct kicked in. If I wanted any chance at living, I had to stop being interesting. So, I went limp, let my head roll, stopped fighting. He held on a moment longer, then let me drop like trash, probably thinking he'd done enough. The rules said I had to be alive at sundown for Mom to get paid, and he didn't want to lose his bonus. So he left me there, assuming I was close enough to dead to make his point. That act of arrogance was the only reason I woke up again. You'd think almost dying would make Mom stop. Instead, she treated it like a near miss in a business deal. "You scared him," she said on the drive home, like she was proud. "But next time, don't push it that far. You're worth nothing to me dead." Then came the elderly banker. On paper, he should have been easy. He had a weak heart, moved slow, and could barely keep up. But he changed the rules. He didn't want to catch me. He wanted to hurt me and watch me try to crawl away. His arrow tore through my leg so cleanly I didn't feel it at first. Then the fire hit, and every step became a nightmare. I still have the scar. After that hunt, something inside me cracked. I told Mom I was done. I told her if she wanted money so badly, she could kill me herself and sell my body for parts. She just laughed and opened her phone. "Next month will be special," she said. "A group hunt. 4 men. Different weapons. And this time, you won't be alone. Write section 5 and 6 inches. Exact words count. Section 5. Conflict part 2, 300 words." That's when she showed me the photo. Another girl about my age, maybe a little younger. Same haunted eyes, same forced smile. You could tell, just from that one picture, that she belonged to someone who treated her like property. "Either you both get out," Mom said, "or neither of you does. They're paying for blood this time." She wasn't bluffing. Her whole operation had grown. More contacts, more money, better equipment. She'd installed night vision cameras all over the property so they could run midnight hunts. She talked about premium packages and returning clients like she was running a high-end resort instead of a child hunting business. That night, lying awake in my bed, I stopped thinking about just surviving. It wasn't enough anymore. Surviving meant more hunts, more clients, and now other kids dragged into it. If I kept playing along, I wasn't just saving myself. I was helping her keep the whole thing going. So I started planning. On supply runs, I slipped small items into my pockets. Rope, fishing line, box cutter blades, gauze, matches, anything that could become a weapon or a trap. Out on the land, during practice walks, I paid attention to everything. Where the ground dipped, which branches hung low, where mud formed slick patches, which plants stung or burned if you rub them on skin. I mapped the woods in my head, not as a victim trying to hide, but as someone setting a stage. Every root, every rock, every camera. I knew where the creek curved, where the fence was weakest, and how long it took to reach the road at a sprint. Mom thought she was sharpening her product, training me to be more entertaining. What she was really doing was handing me every tool I needed to destroy her business from the inside. And by the time Hunt 12 came around, I wasn't just running for my life. I was ready to make sure it would be the last hunt she ever organized. Hunt 12 started before the sun even went down. Mom drove me out early under the excuse of walking the course, like this was some charity 5 kelvins instead of a murder game. While she scrolled through her phone, counting deposits and texting clients, I moved through the trees, pretending to stretch and test the ground. I wasn't stretching. I was setting traps. I strung fishing line at neck height between trees, tight and almost invisible in the fading light. I sharpened fallen branches into stakes and planted them at angles in shallow pits. I marked certain rocks and roots in my mind, turning the forest into a crooked maze that punished anyone who charged in too fast. By the time the sun kissed the tree line, I had done everything I could. That's when the other girl arrived. She stepped out of a different car, shaking so hard her teeth were chattering, wearing clothes that didn't fit. Her handler bargained with my mom like they were talking about livestock. No one used her name. No one asked what she wanted. She just stared at the ground, eyes red, shoulders pulled in like she was trying to disappear. Mom made us strip and change into matching white dresses for visibility. She lined us up so the hunters could inspect the merchandise. 4 men, 4 weapons, a rifle, a knife, a compound bow, a handgun. They passed a bottle between them, laughing and betting on who would get which girl first. The man with the bow kept licking his lips when he looked at her. That's when I decided I was not letting her die out there. When Mom started her countdown, I reached for the girl's hand. "Follow me if you want to live," I whispered. I didn't know if she'd listen, but when the horn blared, she ran with me. We bolted into the dark, branches whipping past, weapons loading behind us, drunk voices shouting like they were on some twisted safari. But this time, the woods weren't theirs. They were mine. I veered left toward the creek, fingers locked around her hand. Her palm was sweaty and kept slipping, but she stayed close. Behind us, I heard boots pounding leaves, someone crashing forward way too fast. My first trap was just ahead. "Down!" I hissed, yanking her to the ground with me. We dropped right before the fishing line. A second later, a hunter barreled through and hit it full speed. The line snapped tight across his throat, clotheslining him so hard he flipped backward. His rifle flew into the dark as he hit the ground, gagging and cursing. I didn't wait to see if he recovered. We crawled on hands and knees toward the creek bank while he choked behind us. The mud was freezing, thick and heavy, but it was perfect. I grabbed handfuls and smeared it across her white dress, her arms, her face, anything bright that might give us away. She was sobbing now, too scared to speak, but she let me move her like a puppet. "For tonight," I whispered, my voice shaking but steady enough, "you listen to me, and we live. We don't. We die. That's it." She nodded once. And just like that, I wasn't running alone anymore. We slid into the shallow part of the creek. The water so cold it felt like knives cutting into my feet. I forced us forward anyway. Water meant no footprints, no scent trail, less noise. 3 rules, I told her quietly. Stay low, breathe through your nose, and step exactly where I step. She nodded, even though I could tell half of it wasn't really sinking in. Fear does that to your brain. Up ahead, I knew there was a fallen oak with a hollow stump behind it. I'd used it for weeks as my secret stash. When we reached it, I pushed aside the dead leaves and grabbed what I'd hidden. 3 makeshift knives made from box cutter blades taped to sticks, rope, gauze, and a little packet of matches wrapped in plastic. I pressed one of the blades into her shaking hand and adjusted her grip. "Point it down. Only use it if someone grabs you. Don't swing wild." A scream ripped through the trees from somewhere to our right. Not a hunter's shout. Real pain. One of them had found my spike pit. The stakes weren't deep enough to kill, but they were sharp enough to tear through a leg. Voices started yelling over each other. "What the hell, she set traps." "Good. Let them be scared for once. Then I heard another voice, calm and controlled under the chaos. David, the one with the compound bow. He started calling out grid directions, dividing the search like it was a military drill. His tone scared me more than the drunk shouting. He knew what he was doing. We followed the creek until I felt the metal pole of a camera with my hand. Earlier, I'd loosened it. Now I tilted it up toward the sky and smeared mud over the lens, creating a blind spot that covered the hollow log and the path toward the fence. I did the same to 2 more cameras as we moved, pocketing SD cards whenever I could. Evidence, just in case we made it out. Above the gurgle of the creek, a low hum vibrated through the trees. The generator. That box powered the cameras and some of the lights. If I could cut part of its feed, we'd have more room to move unseen. We eased out of the water and crawled through the underbrush to the electrical box. My hands were numb, but I still managed to saw into one of the thick cables with a box cutter blade. When the copper finally gave, sparks snapped and a whole section of camera lights blinked out at once. Shouts erupted from deeper in the woods. Confusion, swearing, blame. For the first time in 12 hunts, they were the ones in the dark. We kept moving toward the old logging road, aiming for the concrete culvert that ran underneath it. That tunnel was one of the few places cameras couldn't see. My ankle burned with every step, and the girl, Emily, she finally whispered, was limping from a gash on her knee, but neither of us stopped. Then, in the distance, a siren cut through the night. It wasn't close, but it was real. Not a sound effect, not one of Mom's signals. A real emergency vehicle. Somewhere out there. My chest tightened with a mix of hope and fear. If help was coming, great. But if it arrived too early, the hunters and our parents might spin the story first. We slipped into the culvert's cold, damp tunnel and crouched in the dark, listening. Boots pounded the ground above us. Voices argued. I heard Mom's shout drift through the trees, sharp and annoyed, not scared. She was angry about delays, penalties, money. Even now, we were numbers on her balance sheet. But things had shifted. There were broken cameras behind us, trapped hunters, pulled SD cards, a dead generator line, a silent phone somewhere, with one last text sent to 911. For once, the trail of evidence didn't lead back to me. It led straight to her. People always ask how someone can do that to their own child. The truth is, monsters don't wake up looking like monsters. They look like moms buying Happy Meals after hunts, or women chatting politely with teachers, or parents who care enough to send you to therapy. What saved me wasn't toughness. It was refusing to believe her version of the story was the only one that mattered. The night of the 12th hunt, I stopped being her product. I became a witness. And once the police saw the cameras, the traps, the SD cards, and the land itself, they finally believed me. If you made it this far, thanks for listening to this absolutely insane story. If it pulled you in, hit like so more people find it, and subscribe for more dark family tales and survival stories. Tell me in the comments what you would have done out there in those woods.